to our next piece of news. Praise the funds. FromSoftware's parent company, Kadokawa Corporation, has announced that it is selling a big chunk of shares to Sony Interactive Entertainment and Tencent's subsidiary, Sixjoy Hong Kong. Once the shares have been issued, Sony will own 14.09% of FromSoftware, while Sixjoy will own 16.25%, with Kadokawa continuing to own the remaining 69,
Hey.
nice, 0.66%. Now, into God, you're the into the finance, into the business side of things. What do you
Okay.
make of this?
Okay. Well, it's an acquisition, but no, it's interesting. I think Sony getting into this space, like they've obviously, to me, it's a little bit of a preventive move for Microsoft to a degree. It's interesting that these acquisitions at least announced at the same time. I kind of wonder how much Sony is working with Tencent on this one as well to try to put a blocker into Microsoft. Because now what it means is the Microsoft they're just not going to buy something and get like 2/3 of it, whereas Sony and Tencent are going to own the rest. That's just too hard to manage as a company. So I genuinely think they were getting nervous that a Microsoft might come in and basically, lock down the next Dark Souls slash Elden Ring slash Bloodborne to, well, that, park that one actually because Sony owns that IP. But yeah, it's just, to me, a preventative measure. I don't think it's anything to do with like Sony trying to get it exclusively. It's more just making sure it doesn't become exclusive to Microsoft. That's my perspective on it. Don't see like what Sony could get from it outside of that because they don't own enough of it to bring it in-house like Bungie and actually use them for other features. Also, I'm not really sure like with From, they make amazing games, like some of now my favorite games, but from a development house point of view, I don't think anything specifically with their tech is next level or anything like that. It's really more the creative people behind it, like almost a la Nintendo, where you wouldn't pick them up for tech stuff, but it's more just like the design perspective that they just shoot the lights out. But Swinny, how about yourself? Do you sort of have a reflection on that one?
Oh, look, this is it. It's not surprising. I'm surprised that Sony kind of hasn't made this move earlier. I know they did they own a partial amount already, or am I misremembering
Yes,
that?
they did. But
Yeah,
that's so one thing. Like, and you're more of a Japanese expert than I am. I'm not a Japanese expert at all. But with Japanese companies, they do this weird thing, which I like. I think it's kind of interesting, and probably should do it more in the West. But they actually often buy small interests in each other, like minority, like super minority stakes, like 0.5% of a company or 1% of a company. It's like almost like a respect type of thing. Like it's weird, but it's super common to see. Like even Nintendo owning like little shareholdings in companies they deal a lot with. So I think it was more that. I think they only owned a tiny
yeah.
percent. This is a massive upping of the stake.
To be clear, I'm definitely not an expert on Japanese business. Just be clear.
Business, yeah.
I just wanted to mention. So Kadokawa actually, their statement around this was saying that these funds basically allow them to help them potentially to publish from software to be able to publish their own games worldwide. So that was the focus they did in their statement. Now, obviously, public statements versus what the actual reason was is, the things that can be different. But basically, we know that, Bandai Namco publish Elden Ring worldwide and the Dark Souls games and stuff. Whereas I'm not sure about Elden Ring, but I know Dark Souls was published by FromSoft in Japan, right?
Well, I think almost all From games are
I wasn't
published by From.
I wasn't sure about Elden Ring, so I didn't want to say it. But basically, and Activision, for instance, published Sekiro worldwide. So now that's interesting because Bandai Namco last week, specifically Bandai Namco Europe, were basically saying that they're working hard behind the scenes to secure IP and partnerships with developers in an attempt to protect themselves from the impact of industry consolidation. So the timing of that was really interesting to come just before all this announcement. It's basically they're seeing the writing on the wall that obviously From Software's games are a massive moneymaker for Bandai Namco, and if they don't have a piece of that pie, that's a massive impact to their business. So it's interesting. I don't know, like I don't fall either side of I like this or I don't like this. But any change worries me when it comes to FromSoft because they've just been they're putting out banger after banger, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like I don't want that to change.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to change. Don't rock the boat, people.
I just checked all the games that Miyazaki worked on, and outside of, obviously Bloodborne, which is published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and, like the VR ones, they're all published by From in Japan.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
everything about From strikes me as like they are absolute control freak psychos, right? So I think it's probably to me less about money and things like that. Because, there's obviously money on the table if you're a publisher. Like they'll get a bigger piece of the pie versus if you publish it yourself and you're successful, right? But I think they just completely back themselves now. Like
Yeah.
they're gonna make a great game for their next game, whatever the game is gonna be. Hopefully not Elden Ring 2.
I know. Look, I know business is not all about like, oh well, you did us good in the past, kind of respect. Sometimes it's about pure money and stuff. But I mean, Bandai Namco absolutely like killed it with the marketing of Dark Souls, the first Dark Souls game. Right, that game, like they went to town on marketing of that, and that is part of the reason of it. So obviously, it's a great game, and it would have got through at some point. But
Oh, yeah.
Demon Souls was also a great game, and that didn't hit like Dark Souls. And part of that was the whole Prepare to Die marketing from Bandai Namco. And the Elden Ring marketing was insane from them as well.
It was awesome, yeah.
So it is like, I know that's not the way business works, but part of me is like, Bandai Namco have done really well by their games, I think, from a publisher standpoint. So it's a shame if they kind of get cut from that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. I think I still prefer companies publishing their own stuff if they can, because they then can control the whole chain. And also, by the way, we don't know, how there was the Elden Ring leaks, like leading up to the game? We don't know what the origin of those leaks were, right? And if you have a publisher involved, it just means that you've got another thing that you're not necessarily fully in control of, right?
Well, it's funny, every Dark Souls game, I don't know about Sekiro and Bloodborne did, like they all had some form of leak about them. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. So you do wonder though, like, because some of these companies are really crazy on that kind of stuff, like can be very Apple-like in terms of their confidentiality and obsession about, keeping those secrets in-house, like Nintendo. So I kind of wonder that as well. Like it will completely remove a huge factor of that going out. Outside of that, this definitely means that they will have mobile games, which is interesting. I'm not sure how we all feel about that. And
Look, in and of itself, not a problem.
well, just
but
wait.
if it's-
And
yeah.
before we go back to that, and the other one is like, we definitely will have a movie / TV show, something like that in this space.
That would be cool.
But yeah, Swinny, could I see you playing a Dark Souls mobile game?
I think when we're talking the Japanese mobile gaming market, it's very different than here. So I think that it will allow them to do more stuff like that. But like I could see like Armored Core being a good mobile series. But Mike, you were about
No, I was just going to say, look, in and of itself, whatever. We all know my views on mobile gaming in that sense, and not all mobile games are bad games. I just think it can do two things. One, it can take away resources from building actual great games that people want to play, like Elden Ring.
I don't think so.
I think it absolutely does, because you throw more people at it, sure, but that's not the same bunch of developers, and it's not the same developer at that point. It's a different thing. And secondly, I don't know what the developers working on those games are, but these games have predominantly been well, they're multiplayer experiences to a large extent, but really it's a single player experience at its core in many ways, with the addition of the ability to still do online stuff, absolutely. But I feel like, I don't want to speak on behalf of any developers or anything, obviously, because I have no idea what their views are, but I can imagine that culturally, something like this can have an impact where if, for example, if I was working for a company that was making really cool indie games or single player games, etc., and it was bought out by a parent company that loves mobile games and started allocating a bunch of us to work on mobile games, it changes the culture of the entire thing. And I think it can have a detrimental impact potentially on what the team is like and the work that they're doing. And you might start seeing people leave, you might start seeing the whole thing completely change. And I think there is a chance and there's a risk that it's just not going to be the same From Software that we know and love today.
I think
But we'll see.
I think I think you're getting very excited, and I'll argue about the whole point about it's not a zero sum game, right? Like this is finance 101, right? This is where they're literally giving money because they're buying in. They're giving money, and essentially what they will be able to do now from is say, okay, we can scale up our workforce, like add another 50, 100 people. They don't actually have many people at From Software. And I bet a part of this deal will be they're basically allowing Tencent to go and create mobile IP, probably on the ancillary of like some of their other properties, not like, hey, this is a mainline kind of thing. And I bet they would have very little to do with it. And with the money that they're getting, they're actually able to do more, like potentially even add an extra game to their arsenal. So I can see a situation where this is not at all taking away from their resourcing, is adding to their resourcing, giving more security for what they want to do. And I don't know, you see something like, what is it called? Deracine? Is that how you say it? Deracine? The VR one?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but
yeah.
you know, like it could be something like that from a mobile perspective as well. Like something from like their minds, but not necessarily fully related to like any of their IP. So I don't think it's going to have a major impact on them. But what I am excited about is like the Sony angle of like, hey, they could literally go and make a Dark Souls movie, TV series, something like that. I mean, if that was ever going to happen, this is the moment, given how crazy everyone's getting with like video game IP and just greenlighting everything. I'd be all for that shit. Like, imagine a Bloodborne like TV series, how insane that would be in terms of hype and everything.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'd absolutely be loving that kind of stuff. Sorry, Sweeney.
No, I mean, look, I'd have to see really what they do with that, because the style of storytelling in these games is so different than your traditional storytelling that
Agree.
you'd adapt to a TV or something, but TV series. But hey, look, no, they could. I'd love like an animated film or something. You know,
Like
I
an
don't know
anime,
about
yeah.
like a 3D CG film or something. Like I could see that being cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, big news in the space, and it's not the end of the mobile gaming discussion.
No, it's
so.
not.
No, and that's because